So in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the Sonos Era 100. I did a review of the Era 300 and both have very similar features, which we'll cover in this video. We'll do a quick overview of the specs of the Era 100 and compare them with the Sonos One. Do a bit of a sound test comparison and talk about whether it's worth upgrading to a Sonos Era 100 from a Sonos One and how to choose between a Era 100 or a Era 300. So the Era 100 currently costs $250 and with that you get 3 amplifiers, 1 woofer, 2 tweeters left and right, which means
stereo baby.
Whereas the Sonos One, it's currently going for $200 for non-voice activation and $220 with voice activation. Either of them you get 2 amplifiers, 1 woofer and 1 tweeter. And just like the Era 300, you get touch controls that you can skip and go back tracks, volume control, and unlike the Sonos One, to skip tracks, you had to use a slide gesture, which A, wasn't obvious, and B, I always found it tricky to work correctly. You have a USB-C line in, which Sonos sell adapter for $20, and you have a privacy button to deactivate voice control, or if you're feeling super paranoid, you have a kill switch, which kills the microphone power completely, just in case you don't trust the voice-assisted software. And if you use Google Assistant with your Sonos, unfortunately the Era 100, the same applies for the Era 300, they no longer support Google Assistant. As a workaround, you'll need another Google-enabled speaker. And just like the Era 300, it has AirPlay 2 and Bluetooth. One small detail is that the Era 100, just like the Era 300, has a much lower idle power consumption compared to the Sonos One. Now, just like the Sonos Ones, you can have a pair of Era 100s to form an even better stereo pair, or for a home cinema experience, you can have them as a pair of surrounds with a Sonos soundbar. For that setup, the Era 100s are only compatible with the Sonos Ray, Beam version 1 or version 2, or the Sonos Arc. As for size, it's slightly larger than the One, more cylindrical, and if you've had any Sonos speaker before, I mentioned this in the Era 300 review, build quality is excellent, really solid speaker. Sonos have not skimped on build quality at all. So let's compare the Sonos Era 100 to a Sonos One and a pair of Sonos Ones and see if you can tell the difference. Having listened to both the Era 100 and the One, there is a distinguishable difference between the two. With the Era 100, it's much more deeper and richer, and the stereo separation of the music is more evident on certain music tracks. It's great for small and large rooms. You can place it in a bookshelf in a corner or a side table, and it just looks great. I think it all depends. If you already have a Sonos One and you're happy with it, I don't think there's an urgent need to upgrade. The Sonos One is still a great sounding speaker. If you are yet to own a Sonos speaker and would like to dip your toe into the Sonos ecosystem, the Era 100 is a great choice speaker. As you get stereo out of the box, it has a lot of connectivity options such as AirPlay and Bluetooth. I, for instance, have a few Sonos Ones dotted around the house, and I'm not going to be replacing them anytime soon. And this is the beauty of the Sonos ecosystem. You can always continue to add further speakers to your existing setup. You can group them or move them around across your house or apartment as you see fit. Now, if you're having thoughts about whether you should go for the Era 100 or the 300, I think it probably boils down to budget and purpose. The Era 300 is a good choice if you want a full Dolby Atmos home cinema experience and have the budget. If you're not too fussed about Dolby Atmos and still want a home cinema experience, then a pair of Era 100s are going to be cheaper. Better yet, you can go with a pair of Sonos Ones. If it's just music you listen to, and again, you're not bothered about spatial audio, the Era 100 is more than adequate. If it's purely down to budget, the Era 100 is the cheaper of the two, and I personally think it's more value for money. You get a fantastic stereo speaker which you can place in pretty much any room or space. Whereas the 300, you have to be a bit careful of placement. For example, it's not best to place it on a bookshelf where there's a restricted height, space, If, however, you have an open or very large space that you want to fill and you want more oomph and something cheaper than a Sonos 5, then the Era 300 might be for you. Yes, the Era 300 has spatial audio and Dolby Atmos. Just consider that A, you'll need to subscribe to a service that supports that content, and B, is spatial audio that important to you? If you want to hear more about the Era 300, be sure to check out the Era 300 video if you haven't already. Aside from that, let me know in the comments below if you're thinking of getting a 300 or a 100, or if you're happy with your existing Sonos speaker. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.